Progress doesn't wait, it's built. One bold idea, one relentless leader, one student success story at a time. For more than a decade, Complete College America has reshaped what's possible in higher education, transforming systems, dismantling barriers, and proving that excellence and opportunity for all can coexist. From state policies to classroom practice, from data dashboards to diplomas in hand, this coalition has turned insight into impact. And now, it's time to decide what comes next. The challenges ahead demand more than resilience. They demand transformation powered by data, collaboration, and the will to do what works. This is where experience meets imagination, where past victories fuel future breakthroughs, where leaders unite to write the next chapter in student success. Because the power to lead what's next has always been in our hands, and together, we're ready to use it. Complete College America presents Next, the 2025 annual convening. The movement continues. The future begins.
Please welcome to the stage Complete College America's Chief of Staff and Senior Vice President for Strategy, Dr. Dhanfu Elston.
Good afternoon. Welcome. Welcome to Complete College America Next. And on behalf of all of the impatient reformers across the country, the staff of Complete College America, our board, and all the other individuals who are part of this larger alliance, who are not in this room with us today, but wishing us well and thinking about all the exciting things that will happen here, we just want to say thank you and welcome to an exciting next couple of days. I had to start off the day with some Kendrick Lamar because we use the term impatient reformers very frequently and we don't take it lightly. And so when we talk about individuals who are unapologetic, who take on big tasks, the ones who don't sit back and say, this is the problem, but see the solution, those are the individuals that are us. You know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of folks that are not like us, but the individuals in this room, you're a community of those individuals who are making some really important decisions across this country. And so when you think about Complete College America and the annual convening, for those of you who have never been a part of this before, or maybe this is your first time attending this event, this is a space to reflect on our successes, to think about what's next, and to create. This is the place where things like 15 to Finish came to be, guided pathways, purpose first, and all the other major large strategies that have influenced student success and helped to move the needle for students on our campus. And for those of you who are not as familiar with CCA, I'd like to just quickly show this map. When we started this kind of journey, our founding president, Stan Jones, really said it'd be great if we could get like 6 or 7, you get it? I have a 13-year-old daughter. Let me just tell you, she said, I will clean my room if you incorporate 6, 7 into this thing. So just so that you know, but really, he said, if we could just get a handful of governors committed to student success, then we will have done our job. And now this map is nearly full. Only a couple states left, so you're still on the clock, but a lot of really, really great and exciting things taking place. And we are still growing the alliance. And so some of you may be aware that we had been working with Phoenix as a larger consortia for a number of years, but now Arizona is its own complete alliance. So folks in Arizona, please give them a round of applause. And just by a quick show of hands, how many of you, this is your first Complete College America convening? Okay. All right, congratulations, welcome. How many of you have been here, let's say, between maybe 1 and 5 years? Okay, about 25% of the room. How about individuals who are old heads, folks who've done this for a minute? Maybe 5+ years you've been a part of the CCA agenda. All right, well, welcome. Please give everyone a round of applause. So when we think about this room and who we are, this is a space where we can focus. Focus not on what came last and what we did 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, but what we're going to do next. We have to stand on those who came before us, but we must also use the idea that that foundation is used to launch what the future will look like for us. And that's why we call this Next. I was asked to give a couple of very quick housekeeping items, so I'm going to do that first before we just kind of set the tone for what we're going to do over the next couple of days. So first thing first, if you are a social media user in any kind of way, by all means, if something resonates with you, feel free to use the hashtag CCA Next 2025. Share learnings, share big takeaways, share ideas, share people that you've connected with. You can always find their information on the mobile app. All of the pictures that we take, we will also share them publicly on our Facebook page, so you'll have access to all the things that we have in front of us. So just want to make sure you know that. Also, just a quick note around concurrent sessions. Most of our sessions are either on this floor or the next floor up, and there are stairwells that can get you up there a little faster than the elevator sometimes. So you'll see right next to the AI kind of vendor station, you can actually see the stairwell right there. So just want to give you that. You'll find all the rooms, which look kind of crazy. If you look at some of the pictures outside of them, all of them look like vampires or ghouls or something. You'll figure it out when you see it. But nonetheless, that's the main thing that we wanted to get across to you. So what has CCA been doing? Throughout 2025, we have hosted or been a part of over 150 meetings, panels, presentations, special events, all kind of things across the country. That accounts for thousands and thousands of miles of travel. Our team has been on the grind. They've been moving over 400 plus flights across the country. So please give the CCA team a round of applause. And so you might want to know, what have we learned in all of those thousands of miles of traveling? So a couple things. First, let me tell you that before I think about what we're doing within the context of student success and college completion, what we've learned is that people don't have a lot of really good flight etiquette. And so we've learned a whole lot of stuff. We had this whole running conversation internally about what are you learning about people and society about flights? Well, let me just give you a couple of them. First thing that we have learned is that the person who sits next to the window controls the window, okay? I don't know if you're one of those people. I was on this flight and this guy was he just reached over me I want to see. I'm like, bruh, I'm putting this thing down. You know what I'm saying? I don't need to see anything right now. So that's one thing. We were on another flight one time. I'm not going to name any airline. However, it is an airline where you pick your own seat. And I was sitting a little bit to the back because I never, get up on time or set an alarm for the A group or whatever. So I'm in the back. And, there's a space between me, and I'm not a small guy, but I see this guy walking in, and he's a big buff dude with a tank top. The hairiest dude ever. And all I kept thinking is, if you have hair like Chewbacca, you should not want to have your skin touching other people's skin. So just a note to self, covering the arms and the legs is really most appropriate. Let's see, what else are we learning? Let's see. If you get on a plane and somebody has on headphones and a mask, that probably means they don't want to talk to you. So if you're a person who really needs to kind of get things out, do that before you get on the plane. And last but not least, those individuals who are here, we have survived a whole pandemic, and people still getting on planes with the flu and cough and everything else. And so I just say to you and to our friends, just let them know it's okay to still put on a mask if if you're not feeling well. And we laugh and jest about all of this work, but this is what we were experiencing as we sought to get to campuses. And the campuses are amazing. The work that you're doing on these campuses, in your states, in your systems, is amazing. Many, many years ago in the history of CCA, we were so busy advocating, and it got to a point where people said, I get it. I want to do it. How can you help me? And we started feeling well, this should be easy. But what we're learning is that each and every state, each system, each geographic location has its own vibe, its own unique culture, its own way of doing everything. And you probably have heard, if you here at the annual convening, that we released a photo library, and it really shows you the depth of how different students experience higher education, whether that be a certificate program or a 2-year degree or a 4-year degree, rural students, all kind of students, adult learners. It looks different. And how those institutions define student success is really the starting point of that conversation. So we thought we had this figured out. We thought if you just focus on the data to drive the change, we implement game-changing strategies, we think about the student experience and the pillars of transformation, and we think about the various political environments that everybody lives in, that this should be simple. You know what I'm saying? We should be able to kind of help do some really significant institutional transformation work. But as my great-grandmother said to me a long time ago when I was a little hard-headed, she said, just live a little. And so after 30 years, almost 30 years in higher education, what I found out from colleagues is that this past 11 months has felt like 11 years. And I hear some of you moaning and groaning, so I know you know what this means. The best response that we got from a campus visit was from an individual who said, when we said, how do you feel about this year? And she said specifically, if I was reviewing this on Yelp, I would say 1 out of 5 stars. I would definitely not approve. And that's really how people are feeling and have been feeling about higher education, and yet they still persist. They're still doing the work. They're still at the forefront of what's next and what needs to be done. And personally, for many of us at Complete College America, it's a very personalized experience for us because many of us now have children that are either in school, just finishing school, or on their way to school. I used to share with the CCA Alliance how my son, who at the time might have been 8 years old, was asking his college-age babysitters whether they were taking 15 credits or not. And now that young man is going around campuses trying to figure out, where he wants to be. And we live in Indiana, and the most insightful thing that he said to me was, I want to go to a place where I feel a sense of belonging, where I feel like they want me there and they're not tolerating me. And when I think about that, it's kind of a fearful way of thinking about things, but in those moments of fear, that's when we're tested. But what will last is how we choose to act when it mattered most. So what's next? What's next is that there's a legacy worth fighting for. We define who we are, not in the times of ease, but in moments of fear. Today, fear is everywhere. It's in politics, it's in the markets, it's in people thinking about our planet's future. However, uncertainty is also a call to lead with clarity, with intention, and with a long view. These are the moments that test our legitimacy and define our legacy. Despite the fear, we know that this room is full of impatient reformers, and you are qualified. I know that for absolute certain. And that's not ego speaking. I just know that I've watched you talk about the tests, the triumphs, as well as the testimonies that come from it. You're the individuals that roll up your sleeves when shift hits the fan. And when I didn't say anything, I said shift, when shift hits the fan. New times require a new approach, and that's what next is about. So please, when I think about what you've done, what you will continue to do, and the time of learning over these next couple of days together, you should give yourselves a round of applause. So please do so. And the reason why we continue to do this work is because the individuals that we are doing it for are our students, our communities, and our families. And so throughout the next convening, what you'll see are some snippets and some conversations with students who we serve. And so today you'll get a chance to hear from a recent graduate of Morgan State University. She recently graduated with a PhD, and she was one of those students who experienced colleges and universities in ways that we're trying to solve challenges. And so the CCA strategies, the work that you do, the student success efforts made a way for her to be able to receive her doctorate. So with that being said, I would like to introduce to all of you Dr. Sierra Robinson.
Dr. Sierra Robinson. I'm a proud first-generation college student and a 3-time HBCU graduate. I earned my bachelor's from Jackson State University, my master's from Howard University, and my PhD in higher education administration from Morgan State University. For me, earning a degree was never about the letters behind my name. It meant breaking cycles, widening what was possible, and becoming proof of others that the journey is worth finishing. College gave me community, purpose, and clarity. It changed not only my life, but how I see the power of education itself. The belief that education can change lives is what inspired my career in higher education, working in spaces that support students, dreamers, and future builders. My purpose deepened when I served as a governor-appointed student commissioner of the Maryland Higher Education Commission. In that role, I learned the power of student voice at decision-making at the table. I learned that completion is not just the individual achievement, it's the system priority, a community outcome, a measure of how well institutions serve the students they enroll. Today, I continue my work from the lens of empowerment, serving at the pleasure of a higher education institution, Morgan State, while leading initiatives and support the elevated women in business, entrepreneurs, and future innovators. I stand here today as a 3-time HBCU graduate because someone believed in me and my ability to finish. Now I carry that forward in my work, helping others build, lead, and become recipients of the opportunity, not the exception of it. Because when students complete college, they don't just transform their own lives, they transform industries, communities, and generations. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage the president of Complete College America, Dr. Yolanda Watson Spiva.
Good afternoon, everyone. Is it a good afternoon, everyone? Wonderful, wonderful. It is such a joy to kind of see you because it's so dark in here, but I've seen many of you throughout the halls today and yesterday and some of the pre-sessions. So thank you for gathering once again in Baltimore this time for the Complete College America annual convening. And actually, it's really an exciting time to not just be in Baltimore, but to also be in the DMV. But in Baltimore in particular, because it's a city that embodies resilience, renewal, and reinvention. From its world-class universities to its growing network of community colleges and workforce partnerships. Baltimore is really a great example of what's possible when education and community come together to drive change. It's the perfect place to celebrate the progress we've made and to chart the road ahead. I'd like to thank everyone who is hosting us in this wonderful city and state. I'd particularly like to recognize and thank our friends at the Maryland Higher Education Commission, including Secretary of Higher Education, Sanjay Rai, whom you will hear from soon. And we're also joined this week by several folks and who are members of the commission, like Cassie Motz and the Vice Chair, Chike Agu, who will deliver tomorrow's keynote address. We're also grateful to the local host committee from around the region, including representatives from several colleges, universities, and organizations from Washington, D.C., Virginia, and Maryland. The annual convening is really, of all the events that we do at CCA, and I do love all of them, but it's one of my favorite times of year. Why? It's because of all of you and the fact that we're able to gather from all of the far-flung places and local places to come together to talk about college completion. Every year, I get to stand shoulder to shoulder with people who believe in lifting up low-income, first-generation, and non-traditional students. And no matter what else is happening in the world, you choose to show up, laser focus. You choose to serve. And that's the kind of choice that really defines us, because there are other things that you could have chosen to do, including giving up on higher education, but you've not chosen that path. So it's the kind of big, broad coalition where the whole is bigger than the sum of its parts. As I look around this room and I see more than 700 faces representing colleges, systems, and partner organizations from every corner of our country, I'm reminded that this gathering has always been a reflection of a larger movement. A movement that has grown stronger, smarter, and more determined with every challenge that we faced. And the challenges of this past year have been profound, as you know. Let there be no mistake. Higher education is indeed navigating a period of deep disruption and uncertainty. The economic and political turbulence of recent months has left no institution untouched and no community unaffected. And yet here we are together again. We continue to convene not out of habit, but out of purpose. Because moments like these are when our mission is tested, but our commitment is renewed. Across the country, higher education is being questioned in ways we have rarely seen before. Headlines shout that the system is broken, that degrees have lost their value, that the path to college no longer leads to a promising future. The public conversation is filled with doubts. Is college still worth it? Will artificial intelligence make degrees obsolete? At the same time, politicians have turned higher education into a cultural battleground, scrutinizing what's taught in classrooms, who is admitted to our institutions, and how campuses handle issues of free speech, diversity, and inclusion. The loudest debates often center on the most elite corners of the system and are rarely concerned with the actual challenges students face every day. While these questions indeed reflect real anxieties and should not be dismissed, they do not match the reality of many of our students, the students that we all serve, that you serve directly on your campuses. For these students, higher education continues to transform lives, like we just heard from our graduate of Morgan State University. Higher education continues to transform individual lives and the collective community. The power of education to change trajectories, to open doors, to create opportunity, and build a stronger democracy has not diminished. What has changed is how people perceive that value, how they talk about it, and how they experience it. This isn't to say that higher education doesn't have a lot of work to do. If that were the case, we would declare mission accomplished. But we know that's not yet the case. Despite impressive gains in college completion, institutional gaps persist across race, income, and geography. Too many students still start their journeys full of hope and potential, but never cross that finish line. None of that, however, changes the core value of a college education. The challenge before us is not to prove whether higher education matters, but instead to ensure that every student has the chance to unlock its full value. We must, all of us, reimagine how we communicate higher education's purpose, how we tell its story, and how we make that story real in the lives of our students. That's why Complete College America continues to invest in efforts that show the true face of students in American higher education. The Complete College Photo Library, which we launched in July and continue to expand upon, remains one of my favorite projects. It's a living archive of authenticity that shows real students in real spaces working, studying, persisting, and completing. Parents balancing coursework and children. Adult learners returning to finish what they started. Rural students taking classes at night after long shifts. These are the faces that tell the truth about who college is for and why it matters. And these are the learners we must continue centering within everything that we do. One of the most exciting ways we're doing that is through the next phase of the Purpose First initiative, and we call that College on Purpose 2.0. This updated framework builds on years of learning from across the Complete College Alliance. It's rooted in the simple but powerful idea that students succeed when they can connect who they are to what they are working toward, academically and socially. When students understand the why behind their education, when they see a future that aligns with their goals, values, and aspirations, they stay the course. They also persist and they complete. Preparing students for the future means even expanding what we mean when we talk about education. Learning doesn't just happen in classrooms. It happens through apprenticeships, industry partnerships, stackable credentials, and lifelong learning expectations and experience that build adaptable, purpose-driven workers and citizens. College on Purpose 2.0 helps institutions build bridges between traditional higher education, varied experiences, and these new pathways, helping institutions better prepare students for building careers with meaning and impact. As always, that will also require ensuring that students have the support they need to reach the finish line. As Thurgood Marshall, a Baltimore native, once put it, none of us got to where we are solely by pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps. We got here because somebody, a parent, a teacher, an Ivy League crony, or a few nuns bent down and helped us pick up our boots. Our job, therefore, is to be that somebody for students. Student success and ultimately completion must remain our North Stars. And over the past year, we've seen that commitment come alive across the CCA Alliance. Together with Chicago nonprofit 1 Million Degrees, we're scaling programs that pair financial support with personalized coaching and career development, approaches that have been shown to double community college completion rates. Through this multi-year partnership, we're bringing holistic student support to colleges and addressing the barriers that too often stand between enrollment and graduation. First launched at Delgado Community College in New Orleans, and with the Ohio Association of Community Colleges, we plan to expand to additional institutions next year. Students are receiving wraparound support that combines academic coaching, financial assistance, and career services, all proven strategies for improving persistence, retention, and long-term outcomes. Through the CCA Accelerator, supported by the Gates Foundation's Intermediaries for Scale initiative, we're helping states and institutions implement evidence-based reforms that make a real difference in student outcomes. We've selected more than 100 institutions from 20 states and territories to participate in the Accelerator, which will help them assess their own performances, strengthen their data infrastructure, and adopt strategies proven to improve completion. And through our CLIMB initiative, we're empowering states and institutions to turn data into opportunity, ensuring that every credential, every credit, and every student effort actually counts. Launched this year, CLIMB gives colleges the tools, the frameworks, and support necessary to use metrics like credit accumulation, retention rates, and gateway course completion to drive action and improvement. As the old saying goes, our system gets exactly the results it's designed to produce. So student success is never an accident. It's the outcome of deliberate choices that we make, smart design, and moral conviction. Together, we're building systems that work for every learner in every locale and via every modality. Of course, looming over all of this is our friend AI, artificial intelligence. AI is changing how students learn, how faculty teach, and how institutions operate. And while it certainly brings uncertainty, it also brings enormous opportunity. At CCA, our goal is not simply to help colleges and students adapt to AI, but to use these tools to strengthen human capacity and ensure our graduates are leading at the cutting edge. That promise can only be fulfilled if everyone has the same chance to benefit from AI, regardless of zip code, institutional type, or background. Through our Council on AI, we're making sure that the future of this technology includes everyone. We are ensuring that historically excluded institutions and students have a voice in shaping how AI is used and who benefits. This year, we also launched the AI Readiness Consortium with Ripen, bringing together colleges nationwide to experiment, learn, and share how AI can enhance learning and improve completion. And through our new AI case studies, we're documenting real-life stories of impact, showcasing how colleges are utilizing AI to expand advising, analyze data, and build new pathways to success. And we're not just collecting these case studies for ourselves. We're actively sharing these stories across our alliance to accelerate adoption and execution. Storytelling is powerful. Policy conversations can sometimes feel abstract, but student success plays out in real choices with real consequences for real people. Stories can help to bridge that gap. That's the purpose behind our case studies, our photo library, and other resources like our College Student Success Game. If you haven't seen it yet, I really, really encourage you to check it out. And we'll be giving away some copies during the final session in this room on Wednesday. The interactive, high-energy board game provides a clear, hands-on way to understand how course structures and institutional decisions can either support a student's momentum or place unnecessary barriers in their path to completion. It's playful and it's interactive, but also it's surprisingly revealing about how far we have to go or how close we are to helping students with student success. The landscape continues to shift beneath our feet every single day, as you know, politically, economically, and even technologically. It can seem impossible sometimes to keep track of it all, but we know that we can't wait for what's next to simply happen to us. We must take a leading role in deciding what's next. We actually have to be what's next. That's what this year's convening is all about, having the courage and the conviction to shape the future, not simply responding to it. Since 2009, Complete College America has championed transformative approaches to higher education. We've never been content to aimlessly stare at the problem or just identify barriers. Instead, every one of you in this room has worked to dismantle these challenges through bold, evidence-based action. We've built a movement of leaders committed to doing what it takes to help more students complete college. So as we begin this convening, let's remember who we are. At a time when so many question the worth and the value of higher education, we chose this path not out of comfort or complacency, but because we believe in something better. We're not here to defend what's broken. We're here to build what's next. We are educators. We are innovators. We are advocates. We believe in the power of higher education to open doors, to expand opportunity, and to strengthen communities. How do we know? Because we're all walking, living examples of that. And this week, together, we will chart a path about what comes next. We will set the agenda for change. We will redefine what higher education can be, not just resilient, but transformative. And our host city knows something about reinvention. Baltimore is the city of Frederick Douglass, who taught himself to read and went on to teach a nation about freedom. It is the city of Vivian Thomas, who, with only a high school degree and the job title of janitor, quietly mastered the skills that made him a pioneering figure in cardiac surgery at Johns Hopkins University. It is a city of learners, a city of leaders, and community builders who never stop believing in what's possible. Many of us entered into this work to change higher education. And over the years, we've seen both the promise and the pitfalls in reform in ways that could easily be very discouraging. But we continue to gather, not to commiserate, but instead to strengthen our collective resolve, because the power to lead what's next is in our hands. It always has been. So thank you so much, and welcome to the 2025 Complete College America Annual Convening. I'll be stepping away for a few minutes before I host the next panel, but prior to that panel, I'd like to welcome to the stage the Commissioner of the Maryland Higher Education Commission, Dr. Sanjay Rai.
Good afternoon. Before I begin, let me first thank Complete College America. For more than a decade, CCA has been a national force pushing completion, equity, and student success to the center of our policy conversations. Your work has shaped state strategies across the country, including right here in the state of Maryland. We are grateful for your partnership and for the momentum you have helped us create. I also want to thank CCA for hosting their conference in the beautiful city of Baltimore, one that reflects the resilience, creativity, and determination that defines the students and families we all serve. Let's give them a huge round of applause. It is also a privilege to join colleagues from across the district, Maryland, and Virginia. Three systems deeply connected by our people, jobs, and shared opportunity. As we gather here today, it is worth remembering what unites us is a shared belief that post-secondary education is the primary pathway to mobility, dignity, and economic strength. And the completion, not just access, is the outcome our learners deserve. As someone who is first in the family to graduate from high school, someone who came as an international student to this great nation, stands before you today as Maryland's Secretary of Higher Education. Education is the engine that turns possibility into progress. Maryland's offers a small but vivid picture of the country as a whole. We are compact, yet deeply diverse, urban and rural, coastal and inland, anchored by world-class research institutions and strengthened by 16 outstanding open access community colleges. Our challenge mirrors the nation's affordability, technological disruption, demographic shifts, and the urgency to connect education to meaningful work and completion. If you want to understand America's challenges or its promise, you can find both right here in Maryland. In Maryland, we view higher education as a public asset, not a private privilege, an engine for individual advancement and the state's long-term prosperity. That is why our state plan for higher education is organized around three goals that are deeply aligned to CCA's agenda. These goals are increase post-secondary attainment for lifelong success, ensure every degree and credential has value, mobilize post-secondary education, innovation, and research for competitiveness and also public good. This is where ROI meets the future, and Maryland intends to lead. We are introducing lighthouse credentials and degree programs that meet transparent, evidence-based standards for high labor market demand and strong earning outcomes, specifically aligning with Maryland's innovative sectors like biotechnology, aerospace, cybersecurity, and quantum technology. Our lighthouse programs don't just respond to the economy, they light the way for it. And our guiding principles are simple. We fight confusion with facts. The era of guessing is over. We are leading with data, not anecdotes. We align growth with evidence, labor market data, student success outcomes, and employer insights. Through our state plan steering committee, we bring together institutions, employers, labor partners, community organizations, and the public to ensure shared partnership of this work. This coherence helps Marylanders make informed choices and ensure that every credential carries real value in the labor market. Maryland's focus on completion is firmly tied to our commitment to economic mobility. MHEC works hand in hand with the Department of Labor and the Department of Commerce to strengthen our talent pipeline. By sharing data, forecast, and strategic planning tools, we give institutions a clear picture of employer demand and emerging high-value sectors. We are not preparing students for the yesterday's jobs. We are preparing them from tomorrow's world. In Maryland, we are driving initiatives across the system, expanding the CUNY ASAP model at 4 community colleges with success and MDRC pilots improving advising and completion. Workforce and credential scaling workforce expansion, leveraging achieving the dream to accelerate credentials of value, and building seamless economic pathways through Aspen and transfer initiatives. We are making sure every student graduates with not only a degree in hand, but also a direction in mind. Our learners shouldn't have to navigate a maze. Our job is to build a map. This is how we ensure every new credential carries value the day it is earned, and why our completion agenda is inseparable from our workforce agenda. Maryland's approach is intentionally inclusive. We understand that coordination, not isolation, drives results. At a time when some places are narrowing access to opportunity, Maryland is opening its doors wider. MHAC is shifting from a coordinator and regulator to an accelerator role. We are going to be a partner dedicated to scaling your success for the benefits of students and Maryland. We are embedding data and collaboration into every action that we take. Coordination used to be our role. Acceleration is our new vision. Some are building barriers. Maryland is building bridges. We believe no Marylander should be left behind. Together with CCA, with institutions and state systems across the region, we are shaping a post-secondary ecosystem that is accessible, data-driven, collaborative, and aligned with the world our learners are entering. The future of higher education isn't happening to us, it is happening because of us. Maryland will continue to lead by example as a microcosm of the nation, committed to evidence, collaboration, completion, and equity. Thank you, and welcome again to Baltimore.
Please welcome back to the stage CCA President Dr. Yolanda Watson Spiva and today's panelists.
Thank you so much. It was so wonderful to hear from Secretary Rai. I'm happy to be here. We have a distinguished panel here with us today, and I'm excited to get the conversation started. I'm going to just do brief introductions, and then we're going to get right into content. So I'd first like to introduce the president of Virginia State University, Dr. Makola Abdullah. Dr. Abdullah? Next, I'd like to introduce the president of the University of the District of Columbia, also known as UDC, Dr. Maurice Eddington. Please join me also in welcoming the president of Howard Community College, Dr. Daria Willis. And last, but certainly not least, please allow us all to welcome Dr. David K. Wilson, president of Morgan State University. So first, I guess we should talk about the elephant in the room, since a couple of folks have recently been beneficiaries of some of the largesse of Mackenzie Scott. I don't want to bury the lead there. So first of all, I want to say congratulations to your institutions for really continuing to be exemplars in the field. And so with that being one of the sort of lead-in parts of the conversation, As leaders shaping the higher education landscape, particularly here in this region, each of you is navigating a moment of both challenge and opportunity. From shifting enrollment patterns and workforce demands to debates over access, affordability, and innovation. So to start us off, if you could each just talk a little bit about how you define what it means to lead an institution in this region, but also in this particular moment.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me and having us. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah.
This is an incredible period of transition. And whether you're talking about politics, or AI, or changing demographics in this country, leading at the higher ed level, I think, has never been more challenging. But I think the biggest challenge by far, in my humble opinion, is AI. And so I think as we begin to look at how are we going to continue to make sure that students have access, and that we do the job that we need to do to make sure that they complete, the question is, how do we continue to prepare them for the world of tomorrow as opposed to the world of today? And so I you know, politics is big, and I know I'm sure we'll talk about that. Everybody's dealing with that in your own state. But I think the innovation, the mind of innovation that we have to have now is something unlike anything that's happened in recent years.
Perfect. Dr. Eddington, what would you say?
No, thank you, and it's also a pleasure to be here. You know, I would say leading now, as my colleague said, it's unprecedented times. One of the things that I think it means for us is to stay focused on our institutional mission. I have found myself in the last 6 to 8 months reflecting on our core mission more than I did in my first year and a half in the role. Obviously, because we're under assault. ROI is probably a term that's thrown in my face more than I've had seen in the last 25 years. I've worked in higher ed in terms of being able to demonstrate it, right, and communicate it. But what I found is the more focused I am and we are on what our mission is, right, why we exist, what type of impact as an organization we're supposed to have, and who we're serving, then I get great clarity, right? And it kind of gives me some calm. And I think for us in higher ed right now, it's back to why we exist and what we're trying to do as institutions and as a community. And that needs to be put in front of policymakers and stakeholders all around this country to remind everyone that, of course, there's still value in what we do. It's never waned, and it will never wane.
Absolutely. Dr. Willis, in terms of as a community college, how are you leading in this space right now? How are you navigating the challenges?
Great question, and thank you so much for the invitation.
Yes.
And thank you for inviting a community college on stage. I love my university partners, so I'm happy to be that one, right? But what I will say is I tell my campus to just be like Nike and just do it. So I'm leading in the sense of whatever the challenges are, they're going to be here today. Whenever this challenge is done, there will be another challenge tomorrow. There'll be one that comes 5 or 10 years from now. And even if you look at the Truman, his commission report on higher education, there were challenges then. After World War II, and how do we get people back in school? And this is, at that time, the most pivotal time in American history for higher education. And we're saying the same thing now. We said it 10 years ago, we're gonna say it today. So what I tell folks is just get up in the morning, put your shoes on, do your thing, go out there and just do it, because our students need that.
Yes.
They need us to be there and to have smiling faces and to be supportive of them in their environments, especially at community colleges, where at least almost nearly 50% of my population is Pell eligible. They were all hurt by this whole SNAP benefit mess that happened. Many of them are homeless, they're hungry, they're parenting students, and so they rely on us to get up every morning and just do it. So we are of the mind frame that when you enter Dragon Country at the Howard Community College, we are going to do it for you, and we're going to meet our students where they dream.
Absolutely, appreciate that. Dr. Wilson.
Yeah, so first of all, let me say welcome to Baltimore. I certainly hope that you will take some time while you're here to enjoy our beautiful, beloved Baltimore city. Last week, the Chronicle of Higher Education reached out to me, and they asked if I would send them a couple of paragraphs on what I thought was the most significant trend in higher education in the last 25 years, and why I thought that. And so in responding to your question, here's what I said to the Chronicle that I assume will be published sometime this week. I think the most significant trend, in addition to what President McCullough said, though, is the threat to something that is sacrosanct in American higher ed, and that is the threat to academic freedom and the threat to shared governance. We need to be very careful there, because I think we can begin to tear down a higher education system that is the envy of the world that will take us, who knows, a generation to rebuild. That's what I said to them. And I also said that I could not understand, and still don't, and never will, why there is so much pushback on inclusion, as you heard from Secretary Rye,
Yes.
and diversity. What's the flip side of that? To be exclusionary and non-diverse. And so one of the joys of working in Maryland, in this region, is this great alignment of the values. We have great alignment between the governor, the legislature, the secretary of higher ed, the corporate community, and as a result, we're not dealing with those issues. There's a clear understanding of the value of higher ed in Maryland, from the community colleges all the way to the very high research institutions. And so it is with that in mind that I choose to embrace the joy of working in the DMV during this particular era.
So speaking of that alignment, because there's such a concentration of institutions of various institutional type in the DMV, how do you all leverage one another and work in partnership and in coalition in order to advance the mission of trying to ensure student success and that more students complete college? And that's for anyone who wants the answer.
Y'all not gonna make me go first all the time.
I'll start. I think we do talk. I mean, particularly at the presidential level. So being in DC, we're the only public institution in the district, but we're surrounded by private institutions, and then we have our two states on either side of us.
Yes.
And so the presidents of the institutions have many, many opportunities throughout the year to engage formally and informally. And I know there are a lot of engagements in sharing of best practices. And then I think there's some formal structures also, right? We have the consortium of Metropolitan-Washington universities, as an example, and it's a formal structure, and there are others, right? But I think there are a lot of natural ways for us to engage. I think in the last year, it's become more important for us to take advantage of those opportunities to talk, particularly offline, and that happens very frequently.
And if I could also say a word or two about that. So we actually started several years ago under the leadership of our Senior Vice President for Enrollment Management and Student Success, Dr. Carol Turner, who is here, as well as Dr. Ryan Maltese, with a high degree of intentionality, creating pathways from our two-year institutions into Morgan. And it's called the Pathway Program. We studied this for a while, and the way it started was that we looked at academic degrees that we were offering at Morgan, where we could actually bring tons of students into those programs, and we did not have to hire more faculty. Yes. In essence, these were under-enrolled programs, and some of those were programs that spoke to what Secretary Rye was talking about in terms of the economic needs of the state. And so we put in place something called the TIP program, the Transfer Incentive Program, where we said to students at community colleges, if you stay here in these fields and you complete your associate degree and you transfer to Morgan, we would give you a $2,000 per semester tuition up to 5 semesters, $10,000 to complete your degree. And we saw quite a few students who took that path. And we just signed another agreement just 2 weeks ago with Anne Arundel Community College, another one of our community colleges here, to do the same thing around career readiness. And so while there are examples of Morgan partnering with research institutions, we really like this partnership because it is also in alignment with the mission and value of the institution, as well as with the workforce needs of the region.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that, one, it's important to note that these are some of the really the best leaders in higher education are right here in the DMV area. And so it's a pleasure to be able to give Dr. Wilson a call and talk to him. He may not know, but we're actively collaborating on AI partnerships as we speak. Myself and Dr. Eddington, we've known each other for 133 years. And so, as we've begun to talk about the same thing, and while Howard Community College, of course, isn't in Virginia, we're partnering with Northern Virginia Community College to establish a better relationship between Norfolk State, Virginia State, and Nova to provide better partnerships. And so I think we all would agree it's better to partner and move together than it is to move alone.
Yes, absolutely.
So I've been debating my answer.
Okay.
Oh, God. Is this recorded, this session?
Nope, just us in this room.
So I think we have some wonderful examples, as been mentioned, on the stage. But I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach from the community college lens. Because we have a lot of students who come to us either first when they get out of high school or when mom or dad pushed them to go to XYZ four-year institution that they probably couldn't afford, they maxed out, and they end up right back where they probably should have begun to begin with. Or we have students that go, they are some of our stellar students, and they've gotten their associate degree, and they go to not any of these schools on stage, but other institutions within the DMV area that'll say, well, we're not gonna take this English class because it wasn't taught by this person. We're not gonna take this math class because it wasn't taught by that person. So I'm always gonna be the one to say that we need to do things a little bit better, because what we're finding is this is becoming an issue of affordability, that when our students leave some community colleges and go to the four-year, they're being asked to spend more money on courses that they've already taken, because there's still sometimes this view that community college is less than, when we, in my opinion, are greater than or equal to our four-year partners. And so I am happy to see the collaboration, and there's been a lot of it that has been happening. There's been a lot of conversations, even legislation that's been passed in the state of Maryland that is trying to focus the community colleges and the four-year institutions to come and to work better together. There was just a Student Success Summit, I think, that happened last week. But I would also say that we can all do a better job at looking at that, because there are still too many students that are falling through the cracks. And I know that we're not special in Maryland. I know this isn't the only place where that happens at, or even in the DMV. I'm pretty sure all the other 49 states that are listed out here, you tell me one place where everybody is doing it perfectly. Probably not. But that's where, we all need to do a better job at. But all in all, I would say from the 5 or 6 states that I've been in, Maryland does sit at the top of that, but we can still do more for our populations that are coming from the 2-year to the 4-year.
Absolutely. And Dr. Willis, to continue on that point, thinking about the labor market in partnerships with the employer sector, and of course our sector is an employer as well, but I'm talking about industry. What do you think about, with all of the various advances that we have in this area in particular around cybersecurity, life sciences, public service, all the different types of roles that our students can our learners can go out into the world and do. How are your institutions adapting your curricula and your programs to align with what the industry standards are or what the industry needs, especially because they evolve so quickly? How do you keep pace with them in order to make sure your programs remain relevant and connected to what's happening in the sector?
So I think that's the beauty of community colleges, if I could speak first, because we are flexible. And we don't have a lot of the bureaucracy that you can see in other spaces. For example, at Howard Community College last year or the year before, we got the first cyber range up and running at our institution. We had the governor come out, we took all the pictures, we did all the things, we ate all the chicken dinners, kissed all the babies, and now we've got kids, butts in seats, and they're doing the job and they're going to work. In 8 months, we raised $43 million for a new trade center. Because if you are in Columbia, Maryland, yep, clap for that. Hallelujah, amen, somebody. Because I said we needed a trade center, everybody looked at me and said, well, who's gonna raise that money? But we made it happen as a community. Because if you live in Howard County, Maryland, if you need someone to fix your plumbing or fix that electricity in these houses that were built in the 50s and 60s, of course you're not going to get a Harvard man to do that. My husband graduated from Florida A&M University with a PhD. He can't change a light bulb. Okay? So I got to call somebody to come do it. So we need that trade center to make that happen. So we are trying our best to stay ahead of the curve, but to also partner with our four-year institutions who can feed our students into more of the higher levels of research that we just aren't equipped to do at the community college level.
Absolutely. So as more, we keep hearing about this question about the value of college and is college worth it? How do you translate or communicate the value of the long-term opportunity that is post-secondary education to whether it's the various publics that you serve or the students that you serve? How do you talk about that in your space? Go ahead, Dr. Eddington.
Okay.
You like you're ready?
I think he made me ready. Look right at yeah, I know that's a great question. I think the way I think about it and we think about it and how we try to communicate the value and the need, it's nothing has changed. I think Madam President said earlier, right? Things have not changed in terms of what we need to be doing, but I think that I don't want to say it's a manufactured argument, right? Asking that question now, right? I mean, because there's some validity to it, because we should always have to justify what we're doing, right? But the reasons behind the question have shifted recently, right? The rationale that's driving it. But I think that in order for us to continue to be a great society, in order for us to continue to lead the world in higher education, as Brother Wilson said earlier, we're always going to need talent and paths for people to become and realize the best version, the highest level of attainment, educational attainment, personal growth and development. You're going to always need that. And so I think as long as you have people with the talent and ability, the desire to exceed and go as far as they can go right from within the educational realm, you can always need a higher education pathway for people, right? I mean, so you got the need for the country to be successful, but then you have individual need. If you tell students that look like us at a young age that these paths are not available to them, then they're not going to be able to realize their full potential, And so the value is always going to be there. I just think that what's changed is, and what we need to continue to get better at, is to talking about the changes that are happening in the ecosystem around us, and then how the paths are changing, but the destinations are still needed, whether that's a professional degree, a terminal degree, a bachelor's degree, a 2 years degree, a certificate. All of those things still have a lot of value. And you just talked about a $40+ million investment for job training, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, every sector at every level still has value, and it's obvious.
So actually, I think we have been, as a sector, too inarticulate in this space. I look back, 25 years or so ago, we even had television shows that depicted the value of a college degree or a credential of high value beyond high school. Those are almost non-existent now. That's so we as a sector are responding to Gallup polls where the percent of Americans who have a high stake in what higher education means has dropped precipitously in the last 8 or 9 years. And so I think we need to be very, very clear and ensuring that young people, and I will just draw upon a task force that I put in place at Morgan to look at what in the hell is happening with regard to the precipitous drop of young black men in college. And one of those things is that, some of them have been hoodwinked. And we have to unhoodwink them and basically make sure that they understand that over the course of your life with a college degree, the average bachelor's degree, doesn't mean that everyone must have one, but you're going to realize about $1.02, $1.3 million in annual income versus someone with just a high school diploma at about $580,000 or so, and have to really equate that, with a high quality of life, middle class existence, if those are the values that they want to embrace. I don't think in this moment we have been as convincing to this population as we should be.
I'd like to echo my colleague. I don't think that we've been the best salespeople for higher education, and I think that we can do a better job communicating. I think that's one. I think second, a college degree isn't for everyone. It's not for everyone, and different levels are for different people. That's a personal decision. And I wanted to say that first before I said what I really wanted to say, which is that question makes me angry. Yeah. Like, it actually makes me furious. And because 100% of the people who are saying it went to college.
That's right.
Yes.
Right? I mean, 100% of the people doing the data went to college, and they're all sending their kids to college. And so then the question becomes, who is this message for?
Right.
Yes.
Who is the message for?
Yes.
Because, as Dr. Wilson said, it is getting to who they're trying to get the message to.
Yes.
And there are people now who are not going to college because they believe it's not worth it, when the very people who wrote the articles are going. And even though we talk about income, look, the most important statistic, people who go to college live longer.
Yes.
They live longer. What other value do you need?
Wow.
Yes. Amen.
Right? So okay, let me get off my soapbox. Thank you very much.
Could I just add, I serve on the board of directors of the Lumina Foundation,
Yes.
and so we have these discussions all the time. I've been on the board since 2018, and yes, President McCullough is absolutely right, President Will is absolutely right. We're not saying that everyone must go to college,
Yes.
but we are saying, and I have seen all the data from every state, every county in America, that if you don't have a high-quality credential beyond high school, you are not going to be able to enjoy a prosperous life in this country. Mm-hmm. And I think we need to wake up, we need to deliver these messages very clearly to the vulnerable and let them see that path to a brighter future. Otherwise, in about 20 years or so, we as leaders will regret not doing that.
That's right.
So can I interject for a moment just to
Please.
add to what has been stated here? Because a lot of times I've heard people say that our students don't know what they want, they don't have any dreams, they don't have this or that. So I'll give you a quick story. We have a program at the college called the Youth Engagement Program. Mm-hmm. We had a local magistrate approach us because I typically get in trouble when I go to a mic and I say something. So I was at an MLK Day speech and I said, we don't have enough students in our dual enrollment program, but more specifically, we don't have enough students of color.
Yes.
And in a place like Howard County, we got plenty of them. They're coming out of every place in Howard County. But the problem is, I was approached by this magistrate and he said, well, I've got a pickle for you. I've got a group of students who are going through the community or the criminal justice system, and I've got no place to put them. I want to sentence them to your college. I said, well, let's take this word sentence out. Maybe we don't want to sentence them and make it like a bad thing that they come to college. But so we worked together for a while and we started the YEP. And here's the interesting point. While we're sitting up here saying, yeah, college isn't for everybody and all of these, but how many of our institutions are student ready? So let me give you an example. And I'm gonna say a little bit about my institution, but they know I've said it to them to their face. These young people, they come from varied circumstances and backgrounds. Mm-hmm. 99% of them in them are male. I don't know what they did, what they had to do out there to survive, but they brought a lot of that into the college environment. Mm. And so people were able to point them out, and every time they looked wrong, or they went over here, or they went in the bathroom, maybe they were smoking or something, whatever. Okay, this is where you come and make that mistake. right? But they were looking for a reason to say, you can't do that.
That's right.
And that's a problem. So we had a whole town hall in my institution to talk about this, that we are not going to other these babies.
Yes.
They need our help. So we also began to give them money. I paid these young people $1,000 a month just to show up.
Wow.
And they are still in high school. These kids are in high school, they come to us and they're trying to get their GED. When they finish their GED equivalency, then they'll go on and take more classes. We've got more of them enrolled in college classes. We've got more of them enrolled now trying to get into that trade center that's gonna open. But I'm saying that to say that a lot of times higher education will look at students and say, if you want this, you need to come to us. That's a problem because I remember I grew up in Georgia. We had the Black Baptist Church on every corner. And I don't know how many of y'all went to the Black Baptist Church, but they showed up everywhere. You couldn't deny Jesus, okay, in Atlanta, Georgia. It just wasn't a thing. They'd be in your classroom. They'd be, handing out pamphlets. They throwing oil in your house. I mean, you better show up to somebody's church. So where are we in the space and who do we think we are to look at these young people and say, well, you better come to us? I've got kids in walking distance to my institution that said that they never thought that they could come to HCC.
Yes.
So while we're talking about the dwindling numbers and all of that, we just brought in the first Boys and Girls Club in the state on a college campus in Maryland. Why? Because I want people to see that this is a community environment. I want the children up here. I want the babies with their snotty noses. I want the teenagers with the attitudes. I want them all to see what the college environment is like. Even if they just come and hang out and do whatever, I don't care what institution they go to, it's the fact that they come.
Yes.
But we've got to do more than say we're going to open our doors. And then when they get in there, we try to profile them and point them out and get them in trouble. And these are adults, okay, that's doing that because this isn't our college and who we subscribe to be here. But we've got to do a better job within higher ed to welcome these folks in and give them the opportunity to make mistakes.
Yes.
I'd rather them make mistakes at HCC where they're not going to catch a case.
Yes.
Versus going out there and doing it and their lives are over. I got a brother sitting in prison because of that. So I'm done. That's it.
No, that's great. So, President Willis, you've got us on a good tear, so let's go this way.
Okay.
Because we're here talking about what's next, and I think that what you just surfaced, and I know we have examples across this entire panel, people who are thinking forward, thinking progressively, thinking about what's next, not just doing what the stereotypical community college has done, not just doing what the stereotypical HBCU has done, right? Not just doing what the typical only public institution in DC has done. So talk a little bit more about what you're doing that's outside of the box at your various institutions that defies the stereotype of what people think you should be doing at your institutional type. Please.
Okay, well, sure. Yeah, I think one of the things that we've done, we have begun to lean heavily into employer partnerships, right? I mean, we've all had employer partnerships on our campuses. That's a natural part of our DNA. But what I mean by leaning heavily into it is we started looking at our academic portfolio. We started looking at labor market data. We started looking at what's happening in the region with shifts in federal policy, et cetera, and really started asking the questions of, are we producing graduates who are getting, high demand living wage jobs, right? And are they able to stay in the district, right? Meaning they can afford to live in the district. Yes. And so we started to say, let's deepen our partnerships with employers, but use a different model and have them invest in us to expand, increase our capacity to produce the talent they want. And so one of the biggest things that happened was we launched what we call the DC Tech Hub with Accenture, right, one of our strong supporters, and set up an apprenticeship program in a matter of months, talking about being nimble and flexible, right? It went from an idea, proposal, to being a living, breathing program. But what it's doing is it's attracting 60 people from Southeast DC. So if you don't know what that means, that's the part of the district that has underrepresented minorities, lowest educational attainment, lowest household incomes. And Accenture wanted to put this program in that part of the city where we just happen to have a campus. And we said, that's the community that we've been trying to serve. And we set up this program, And when I tell you that the impact it had on attracting people who were walking around that neighborhood every day, who also told us, we didn't even know you all had your job training program over here at UDC.
Right.
It's sitting on a big corner. But when we put this program here, those same residents came out of nowhere, and we had intense interest in applications and started up the program. And then you started seeing what the impact is. And now you have people who are excited, looking for jobs, because what they see at the end, and this was the secret sauce, there's a job waiting at the end, right? You know, so you start the program, you go through the program, and as long as you finish and finish in good standing, you're essentially going to get a high-paying job. And so that was an aha moment for me as a president. And I told my team, I said, you know what, we should model this. Let's figure out how to expand and grow this. And so now our pitch to other partners is, we want to do more of this on our campus, but we need you to invest in it. And so we're going to continue to push forward that model.
Perfect. Before Dr. Wilson goes, can we start? We're going to have questions from the audience, so if folks can begin to come in the aisles, there are microphones positioned, and so if you want to ask a question, please go ahead and approach the microphone. Dr. Wilson.
Just a couple of quick examples. One in K through 6, and the other, of course, on our campus itself. So with some of the support that we received from Mackenzie Scott, we leveraged it, and we started a national center for the elimination of educational disparities.
Yes.
And have a really robust center on the campus. And one thing that I did not know is that I think it's only like 1 or 2 universities in Maryland that actually have outreach to K through 6. Typically, those outreach programs start in middle school and up. And so we are bringing to the Morgan campus now literally thousands of elementary school kids, and to walk the campus and see how they are experiencing being on a college campus is very enlightening. So we're opening doors to them very early on and saying to them, see yourself here.
Yes.
This can be you.
Mm-hmm.
Then the second is, once again, this is Dr. Turner and Dr. Maltese is doing, but we started at Morgan a few years ago, something called the second year experience, where we are saying to every single student at Morgan now, before you walk across the stage and get your degree, you'll have an opportunity to do 1 of 4 things. And we put in place all the different units to promote that. One is we want our students to understand the world.
Yes.
We want you to understand your neighborhood, understand your state, understand the United States, but there's still a whole big world out there. And we mean it when we say that when you finish here, we want you to be in a position to dance on the world stage.
Yes.
And you can't dance on the world stage if you don't know it.
Right.
So we want them to have a global experience. Second, we say to them, yes, we have in place an office here to facilitate your getting out there and understanding what the world of work is like. Internships and paid internships. We opened up pathways for them to the Silicon Valley, to all over the United States. So we have students at Morgan now interning almost everywhere. And then third is that we wanted them to have an experiential learning opportunity, to get away from the campus, to immerse yourself in community service, or just in understanding something that you did not understand before. And then the last is to basically, and our faculty are to be applauded here, to get the faculty then to understand their critical role in enabling the light bulb to come on for students. And that is to form a different kind of relationship with them, to bring them into their laboratories so they're conducting research, have sophomore students, not just master's and doctoral students there, co-ideating the research question and moving that forward. And so, or they can basically come up with their own research question, and through the support of NIH, they present that to a panel. Mm-hmm. The winners are announced, the team, and then they are given a grant of $25,000 and they can go forth and they can actually conduct their own research project, and some of those have resulted in publications. So we at Morgan, we embrace innovation. We embrace meeting our students where they are and moving them where they need to be competitive.
I have one question, especially because CCA, you want to go?
I was.
Okay,
I was.
please.
No, I was struggling when you asked the question because you asked specifically like what is not stereotypical, and I was kind of flummoxed on how to answer it. And then I listened to my colleagues, and I think everything they said was very, very stereotypical. Because as institutions, we have been involved in meeting students where they are, in access and in excellence for the community since all of us were founded, whether you talk about community colleges or HBCUs. And so in some ways, continuing the legacy of the work that we do, that's incredible.
Appreciate that. With that being said, I guess I would like to hear, because of course we're all about completion at CCA, what is one thing, we have lots of folks in this audience who are trying to figure out like, what's the best lever I can pull in order to increase completion on my campus? And because we like to talk about utilizing our microphone and our megaphone to shout it out across our alliance, what's one thing you would say, one piece of advice you would give to a leader in terms of how they could leverage whatever assets they have in order to increase completion on their campus?
Well, I think first is, and I don't always like to say it because I think people minimize it sometimes, but it's money. There are so many, in Virginia, we are arguably the most affordable four-year institution in Virginia. And many of our students can't afford the education that occurs at Virginia State University. And so through incredible philanthropists like Mackenzie Scott, we're able to help more students in general. But they're partners in this, and the students and their families are certainly one. We're one, and we're doing what we can to keep tuition low. But between the state, the federal government, and private philanthropy, everybody has to step up to decide that this is a national need.
That's right.
And that it's important. And it can't just be left to one of the partners, which is the institution, to get that done. Now, having said that, I think it's important that you marshal all of the resources. Everybody has to be in the room. I have a colleague of mine at dear old Wiley College, I think they're in the room. He put student retention on everybody's title. Vice President for Finance and student retention. Now, I'm not sure that we need to go that far, but the idea of making sure that everyone knows that every part of your job is about keeping students in and making sure that they complete with spending the minimum amount of money that they need to spend. So I think it's got to be all hands on deck, and everybody has to do it.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, well, he said what I was going to say, which is culture, right? Establishing a culture of accountability, and you describe what it looks like, but I think as leaders, that's what we have to do, and it starts at the top, and it should permeate down and across the organization.
Perfect.
I would say showing your students that you really care for them. A lot of times we put in our strategic plans, care and belonging, blah, 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 and the students don't feel that. And they also need to see it. Representation matters. So when you get those different student types on your campus, don't run away from them. Love them, hug them, say hello to them, sit down in the cafe and sit and eat with them. Do like my friend down here, play basketball with them. Do all those things, because at one point you were a student too. You were 16, 17, 20, whatever that was, and you remember making some mistakes. I got stuff I'm gonna take to the grave with me that my mama still don't know. But students want to know that you've experienced that and that you understand them and that you care about their circumstance. They care about the fact that they're sleeping in their car or you're trying to help support them. So you can do all the initiatives on the planet, but if they don't believe that you really care and know them and love them, they will not stay.
Yes, Dr. Wilson.
Yeah, I would say ditto, 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 especially with regard to financial support. I think that is number one from where I sit. Given our retention rate, given our graduation rate, if we were able to support financially or a couple of thousand or so more those students, we would have the highest retention and graduation rate in the state. And we're already contributing nearly $40 million of our own institutional dollars. We're not talking about philanthropic support, but in terms of redirecting tuition income, right? And then the last is just simply listen to the students. They will tell you what it is you meaning the institution, needs to do more of to keep them there and to march them toward finishing.
And I think without having any questions from the audience, because it looks like we've just done such a wonderful job, we will drop the mic right there and say thank you so much to Dr. Wilson, Dr. Willis, Dr. Eddington, and Dr. Adula. Thank you so much. We will now also go to our breakout sessions next, so thank you all for attending and looking forward to seeing you for the rest of What's Next.